All
Yep.
righty. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Voter Education and Outreach Advisory Committee.
Morning, everybody. You can come off mute, at least say hello.
Good morning.
Good
morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Hiya.
Okay, so why don't we get started so we can stay on time? So hopefully most of you, I guess you're not going to be able to see. Once you take that slide down, hopefully everyone has started to get both their sample ballot and their actual ballot in the mail. So a lot of questions that people may have might be answered in this sample ballot guide. So essentially what we're going to do today is, this is kind of your last chance to get any questions answered about the upcoming election. And since there's not a ton of us, it would be nice if we could go around and introduce yourself, what organization you're with. And the two questions for today, given that we just had that major storm and I was without power for 48 hours. What would you miss most if your power was off for days? That's question number one. And question number two is, what remaining questions do you have regarding the March election? So I'll just start off at least with the one with what I miss most without the power. It got very cold. So losing power in the winter, it's just super, super cold. So I'm going to bounce it over to, let's see, to Glenn. And if you could also put your name and your organization in the chat, that'd be great too. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Glenn Olson with the Immigration Institute of the Bay Area. We kept our power luckily, but my kid's daycare was out, so I missed that. I think heat's more important, but definitely missed that childcare. All right, and I'm gonna pass it over to Sarah.
Mute. There we go. Thanks, Glenn. Good morning. I'm at the elections office, and I had power this time. I do remember having 4 days without power when PG&E decided they needed to turn off the power in advance during a summertime and because of high wind possibilities. And during those 4 days, what I most missed was being able to open the refrigerator and close it whenever I want it. And I will pass it to Margie.
Hi, I'm Margie Gator from League of Women Voters North and Central San Mateo County. I am here over in Half Moon Bay on the coast, which did get a lot of the storm. We survived. We didn't have any power issues because I happen to live in a neighborhood where the lines are underground, but I have friends who are still lost their power Sunday and are still without it, hour 70 or so. And I think what I would miss most or be very sad about is dumping things out of my freezer that didn't last. I was just thinking if I have any questions, maybe it'd be good to go through the top 2, which offices are top 2 and which are not. And oh, I know. And if they're not top 2, like the county supervisor races, if somebody gets a majority, is that race done for the general, or is it a primary where 2 go through? That's my question.
Are we doing answers now or later?
We are holding off, and Diane, you're on mute actually, and we are holding off on answers, and we had some people trickle in. Hi, everyone. If you are on camera, we're just introducing ourselves, saying our first name, last name, pronouns, and organization that we are with. 1 second. An organization that we are with. And the question for today is, what would you miss most if your power was out for days? And the second question is if you have any remaining questions for this primary election. We are not answering questions. We have a packed agenda, but we're going to answer all your questions at another section. So thank you, Margie, for those questions. Sarah, I'm sure you're writing those down for
I answered in chat.
Oh, amazing. There you go. Okay. Let's kick it off to someone else. Who wants to go next? I see Betsy smiling at me. Here you go, Betsy.
Good morning. Let's see, we lost power for a little while and I got really cold. I think that's the thing I miss is having a heater. And I don't have questions because Sarah has been amazing answering all my emails like every day. So I really appreciate how responsive the election office is. I'm gonna go to Thomas. Oh, by the way, I'm with League of Women Voters, South San Mateo County. I'll go to Thomas Day.
Yes, good morning. I'm with the elections office at 40 Tower Road. And losing power, biggest thing I miss is the hot shower because we don't have hot water heaters. We have power, heat on demand or heated water on demand. So it gets cold. And so I'll move it to Travis.
Hello, everybody. I'm Travis Dunn from the Elections Division. Fortunately, did not lose power this week, but if I did, I think probably what I'd miss most is video games because I can always put on another coat. And as far as what I'm interested, my question for the upcoming election, obviously, I know what's going on because I work here, but I'm interested to see how many people vote in person versus in mail. Now that we've had a few years of Voters' Choice Act, it'll be interesting to see if those old numbers hold or if behavior will be changing over time. So that'll be an interesting thing to see. And let's see, I will throw it over to Pam Jones.
Good morning, everybody. Pam Jones with Bellhaven Empowered. I would not miss anything, and being very selfish, I would enjoy it because I could just stay cuddled up in all my warm bed or all of my winter clothes, and I would be just fine. My question for Sarah is, can and how could we access the voter rolls addresses for registered, well, for all addresses, but specifically for registered voters, so we know which houses not to go to? And I will turn this over to, oh, Jim. Is it Gary? I turn it over to you.
And Jim, we're just introducing ourselves. You're still on mute. We're just introducing ourselves. And if we had, what would we miss if the power was off for a couple of days? And if you have any questions for Sarah to answer in terms of elections.
Great. Well, thank you. We have some problems here with the mute button. Well, good morning, everybody. I love this weather, to be honest with you. I'm somewhat of a mountain man. I love to have a fire and really have no power. So I'm not missing much. I enjoy it very, very much. Questions for Sarah is, how are we doing with our voter education and outreach program this week? We've got a lot of things going on, and maybe you might be able to highlight some of those when we get into our meeting here.
Yes,
Will
amazing.
do. Will do.
Thank you, Jim. Okay,
You're welcome.
if people that have their cameras on, let's do some introductions. I'll hand it over to Nelson. Hi, Nelson. Welcome.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Nelson Tam. I'm actually calling in from the East Bay. I live in Oakland. I'm an ADEM delegate for Assembly District 18 at the CDP with Our Revolution East Bay and Wellstone Dem Renewal Club on the CalCare campaign for single payer. Few state senate races. I'm just dialing in just to see what's up in local organizing in the Peninsula. Thank you. And and what I hate about losing my power, all my frozen dumplings and pot stickers, they freeze. They melt into a clump. So, right, and with that, I'll pass it to Will A.
Good morning, everyone. Will Aubin, Silicon Valley Community Foundation. Thanks for having me here. And for me, I think people have mentioned it, but really just that refrigerator, just all the food that goes bad and the smell that can accumulate over time. And just missing, having food ready for you all the time would be a big downer without the power. I'll pass it on to Donna.
Good morning. I'm Donna Rutherford, representing National Council of Negro Women. And yeah, I can do without the power for a little while. I don't really cook a lot, so I don't really have a lot to go bad. My question about the upcoming election is, when registering the is it 15-year-old, 15 to 16-year-old? What's the last date to have them register? Is it the same for everybody, or they can do it throughout the year? That's it.
All great
Okay.
questions. Thank you, Donna. Let's hand it over to Twyla. Twyla, please correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you got it. Twyla Deppendal. I just heard about this meeting just the other day. I'm glad to see Diane Leeds. I worked with her when I was over at Ombudsman Services, but now I'm recently retired. I'm on the Commission on Aging, and I'm a board member for Voices of Recovery for the county. We did not have any power outage, but I hate to admit that I would miss my Netflix shows if there was power, and I have no questions.
Amazing. We've got a professional in elections here. Thank you, Twilight. Let's hand it over to Julie. And for folks coming in, if you have your camera on, we're doing quick introductions. You're welcome to come off mic.
Hi, I'm Julie Shanson. I'm with Bellhaven Action. And when we lost the power last February, I went nuts because I was so cold. I could not think, I could not talk. It was awful. And I don't know who to pass it to. Yahaira, can you?
Don't worry. I've got it. Jesse, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Jesse Burleson here from Legal Services for Prisoners with Children and All of Us and None. I logged in after y'all started the introductions, but it sounds like it's a question about a question.
Jesse, the question is, what would you miss most if your power is off for a couple days? And the second question is, think about any remaining questions that you have around the primary election that Sarah or anyone else on this team can help answer at a later session.
Okay. If the power went out, I don't know. I have to experience it first. But I kind of appreciate when the power goes out on a silver lining side, because it sounds more normal to me when all that humming, that undertone of humming electricity stops. I actually appreciate that. As far as questions goes, gonna be looking for volunteers for next week in the county jail down in San Mateo. So get ready.
Amazing. And Jesse, you'll share a little bit with folks on the call later today. So I think we just have Scarlett, and then you can hand it over to Mark, Colleen, and that's all the folks that I see on camera today. Go ahead, Scarlett. Introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Scarlett. I work with El Concilio San Mateo County. And if my power was out, I would definitely miss the heat. I sleep under like 5 blankets, even with the heater on, so it would be a disaster. And I'll pass it on to Mark.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Yeah, I guess here in East Palo Alto, we've had several neighborhoods that had over 24 hours without power. I think Donna might have been in one of those neighborhoods. I've been really lucky. This past time, we didn't have power outages, and I happened to be in Mexico on vacation over New Year's when we had a big power outage, and then I was up in Lake Tahoe with the one last year where there was a 58-hour outage. I happen to be one of the few people who have a backup generator at my house, and I ended up loaning that and a power bank to City Council member Martha Berrigan this time because she was out. I think heat, refrigeration, just the basic things we take for granted, which one of the focuses we have on East Palo Alto is renovating our emergency response. And what does it look like without 3 weeks of power, without clean water, without all that? So these small outages are probably good wake-up calls. My question about the upcoming election is more of what's going to happen. We have a runoff in District 4, and what the vote turnout is going to look like, and if anyone's going to hit over 50%, and if it's going to be a runoff, and who those two candidates are. So that's my question. It's not so much a factual one, but who's going to horse race one?
Good questions. Okay, I see Joanne and then Colleen. You'll end the session.
Good morning, everyone. Joanne from Puente de la Costa Sur. One of the things that I'm thinking about right now is Pescadero is just now getting their electricity back, and one of the things that is really impactful is that a lot of people have water and electricity connected. So if you don't have electricity, you also don't have water. So I think about all the various ways that it's not just electricity. Sometimes it's like other things that are also connected to that power line that can affect them. I can't think of any question right now.
No worries, Joanne. Thank you. Colleen.
Hi, good morning. I somehow did not lose power. I was shocked because everyone around me did, and they just got their power back on last night. And I have friends that south of town that still don't have power, and I am lucky I have a gas stove and I have a wood burning stove, so I would be kind of set except for the refrigeration. Like people mentioned, losing food would be a bummer, but in the past I've just gotten a cooler and ice. But that was a rough storm. And I do have friends who still don't have water because they have an electrical pump for their water in those areas. And I look forward to hearing the rest of the meeting. Thank you.
And Colleen, I am not sure if I missed it, but you're with the Coastside Farmers Market.
Correct. Coastside Farmers Market. Sorry, I didn't say that.
Yes, there you go. Amazing. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And if you are not on camera and would like to introduce yourself, please come off mute now. We'll wait a second.
Or if you don't want to do it on screen, put it in the chat.
Yep. There you go. Handing it over to you, Dan.
Okay, so if you can pull up the agenda slide. Okay. Okay, so basically what's on the agenda for today is getting an update from the elections division from Sarah and Jim. And then Will is from the Silicon Valley Community Foundation, and we'll be talking about the grants that were given to organizations for voter outreach. And then the next one is the voter engagement conversation that Yahira will lead. And this is really an opportunity for all of you to talk about what your organization is doing, what assistance you might need. Is there anything you need from the elections office? Do you need any additional volunteers to do your outreach? So again, we know Jesse's going to be talking there about registering voters in the jails. But if anybody else needs anything from other organizations or the elections office, or you just want to publicize what you're doing, that's the time to do it. And then I'll do a very brief update on, it's not really legislation, but there's been a lot of questions about Proposition 1, which is the only proposition on the primary ballot. And with that, I'll turn it over to, I don't know, Sarah or Jim, who's going to go first? Jim?
Yes, there you go. I need to find the mute button with all of these buttons up here, right? Well, good morning, everyone. Again, what an exciting day. We are now in the election period here for the March 5th, 2024 presidential primary election. It probably is one of the more historic and comprehensive elections that we're going to be seeing nationally. Locally, it's very active. We have over 220 different ballot styles. A ballot style is unique to each voter, really, where they live. And a ballot style basically are all of the candidates, the races, the measures that are related to that particular address. And that's a good gauge as to the complexity of an election, has the number of candidates, et cetera, on it. And we have 220 different ballot styles in 4 different languages. So again, think of the complexity of constructing an official ballot. My hat's off to our elections team for being able to do that. The complexity is really absolutely incredible. It's the melding of both technology and people to be able to construct the official ballot. As I said, we have 220 different ballot styles in 4 different languages. You know, of course, you have English, Spanish, Chinese, Filipino. That's 880 different ballot styles that we have constructed and that have been mailed. The official ballot was actually began mailing on February 5th. So it's in many of your hands right now. it's a good opportunity to take time. There you go. It's a good opportunity to take time. Maybe you might want to show us the sample ballot and voter information pamphlet, Diane. There you go. Okay. So, that is an excellent place to start. It is a very comprehensive guide as to this election and everything that's, going on in the election. And it's geared locally to your particular ballot style. It is just, again, full of informative information. This year we have NPP ballots, a non-party preference, which kind of is a different election because those political party designees can vote, can cross over into other political parties if they fill out a application form for that. So we've sent out a lot of information with respect to that. And those of you that are NPPs, and a lot of people are in this county, have an option to vote in other parties that allow that. And right off the top of my head, it's a Democratic, Libertarian, and sorry for the Independent also. And Travis or Sarah, maybe you guys can help me on those parties. Let me see if I can pin that down. But anyway, we'll get to that in a little bit. So it's a very unique election with respect to the non-political preference voter. And so those of you that are, please make sure that you get a request into our office if you wish to vote in one of the political parties that allows that quote crossover ballot. This is a relatively large election. When you look at, I'm just going to rattle off some of the statistics right now. We sent out approximately 434,000 ballots to 434,284 to be exact registered voters. Interesting statistic, we have over 500,000 eligible voters in this county, 510,000 eligible voters. And we sent out 434,000 plus ballots, which is about an 84.9, almost 85% ratio between eligible voters and registered voters. So that's a very good ratio. And we're opening up our vote centers. We opened up our 30-day vote centers when we send out our official ballot 29 days before. We open up vote centers in North, Central, and South County. That is unique to San Mateo County in that Voters' Choice Act, of which we are a part of, requires that you operate 10-day and 3-day vote centers. If you include election days, 11-day or 5-day vote centers, 4-day vote centers. And those are statutorily driven by the dates. And that really starts up 10 days before election. But in San Mateo County, we open vote centers, 3 vote centers in North, Central, and South County, 30 days before, 29 days before technically. And those vote centers are in South San Francisco, South San Francisco Public Library, Tower Road, and of course we have also 555 County Center in Redwood City. Those vote centers are really important because a lot of people have questions, especially first-time voters or those that may have lost a ballot or are going out of town. Those early vote centers really get a lot of activity. Contrary to the popular belief that vote centers aren't really heavily utilized until election day, some vote centers are. And those vote centers are there for one primary reason, and that is to serve the voter and make sure that any questions that they have are answered. They're also voting centers, which means that you can actually vote at one of those vote centers in person, or you drop your vote by mail ballot off. We will have a total of 48 vote centers, I believe, all in all. Somebody can confront me on that one. It's either 48 or 49, and that's scattered throughout the whole county. We also have a mobile vote center unique to San Mateo County, but this year we're going to be setting it up over in the Half Moon Bay Airport. Very versatile vote center. We also have pop-up vote centers, which aren't open exactly for 4 days, but they are open for 2. We have 3 of those in the county, and they tend to be over on the coast side and one over here on the bay side. We have 58 drop box locations, so that means now you drop your ballot off. Remember, under the Voters' Choice Act, voting is easy and convenient, and those those drop boxes are there to assist in that convenience. So we have indoor and outdoor drop boxes, and I believe right now we have about a total of about 58 of those that are in play today. We covered the ballot styles. We have San Mateo County is a very interesting county when it comes to elections. We're small relatively in size, although we have the 13th largest population, I think, in the state of California. But jurisdictionally, we have 475 square miles that we serve. But what we do have that most counties do not have, or very few, are the number of jurisdictions that we serve. Each jurisdiction adds a complexity to an election. And in San Mateo County, we have 70 jurisdictions that we serve. Those are municipalities, school districts, special districts, county, etc. And we have 20 incorporated cities. That is huge. We have more cities in San Mateo County than the county of San Diego. We have more cities in our county than any other county in the Bay Area. And that adds a level of complexity because each city is its own jurisdiction and has its own election official. Little interesting tidbit of information here. In each municipality, the city clerk is the election official for that jurisdiction. And so we have to work with the city clerks, and we work with all of those jurisdictions to get the election structured and delivered. It's a very complex organization. We will be hiring over, approximately, we estimated originally around 500 people and volunteers, about 150 plus. So it's a huge operation. The foundation of elections are people and technology. And we have the best in San Mateo County. So we're very, very fortunate to have just a real excellent team that can construct an election, and an excellent team, people and technology that can deliver that election. So I just wanted to touch upon some of the major highlights of the election here. I'm sure probably skimmed over a lot of important areas, and you can always ask questions. And Sarah, I'm sure can talk a little bit more about voter education outreach, or what is planned in the next few days in terms of mailers or actual contacts that we're going to be having. But on that note, I will turn it back to you, Diane. If there's any questions, we're here to ask. Get out and vote, okay? No excuses, no excuses. That ballot is in your hand.
So are there any questions for Jim? I don't see any hands. So Sarah, can you jump in and give us an update on what's going on with materials for voter outreach?
Sure. Well, first, as Jim mentioned, we do have a postcard that's scheduled to go in the mail on February 20th. It will go to all voters, even those who have voted, because sometimes getting that mailing list, it has to be done in advance. It can't, we can't delete people on the last day or something like that. And we're required by the Voters' Choice Act to send 2 notices about the election to each voter. Let's see, besides the postcard with materials, we've got the bookmarks. They've gone out to many libraries. In addition to all of the materials have been picked up by many organizations. We have the information for the unhoused, information for people on parole or probation or PCRS. We have quick facts from the SOS, which is a nice 1-page, well, 2-page front and back resource with things like, what do you do if you're an NPP? It helps explain that. So if you would like any materials, or you have a question about something that you need, that you think, we may have, please send me an email, give me a call. And, I'd love to be able to get it all ready in advance for you, so you don't have to wait when you come in. I'll put my email address and phone number in the chat room. And
the hire already did it.
Thank you. We're a team, a good team. We've gone out to some of the second harvest food distributions. As far as activities, we've worked with Glenn on an in-person and a virtual Spanish language workshop. Jim and Chantel did the online one, and Chantel went with, I think it was Carla and Irene from our office in person.
Both were great.
Good. Excellent. Yeah, Glenn, we appreciate the Spanish always being taken care of, and that we can invite others to attend. It's not just folks from IIBA. We gave a Japanese workshop yesterday during Japanese story time at the Millbrae Library when parents are bringing their little ones. It was adorable seeing them sing little, Japanese songs and making all the little hand movements. I don't know those songs, but it was adorable. At this time, we actually have one of those going on at the Mandarin story time at the Belmont Library. We'll be doing more of these workshops in the next several days. This Saturday, we have a table at the Transition to Independence event. We also, let's see, I think I'm trying to remember, there are so many different activities and the materials and all. We're just still keep moving, and please contact me if you have any special questions or needs. Thanks.
Sarah has been a hero for this election. I want to say my deep appreciation for Sarah and the work that she does at the elections office. She is here for you all, and she really understands that the community wants to get out the vote, but just needs a little bit of help, and Sarah is that person at the elections office. So please, if you have any questions, reach out to her. Please don't hesitate to do that. And Colleen, I do see your hand.
Hi, thank you. I had a random quick question for elections folks. Where do you put these if they don't live here anymore? Do you do a return to sender or?
Yeah, you can do that. You can shred it, but prefer return to sender so that we can see what's going on with that person's ballot, why they still got one.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, I was like, I didn't want to destroy it unless it, yeah. Thank you.
I'd like to add one thing, that you showed the ballot there for your own personal ballot envelope when you receive it and you mail your ballot in. Please make sure you sign it. One of the biggest challenges we have in challenge ballots or rejecting ballots is that everybody takes the time. A lot of people take the time to actually vote and fill out their ballot card, then they put it in the return envelope and they don't sign it. Okay, thank you. Boy, you're great with the visuals here, Diane. That's really, I can't emphasize enough the importance of signing that envelope, because then it goes into a rejection process. We will reach out to you. We will do everything possible to cure that ballot. And so there are opportunities to correct that. But boy, it's a lot easier if you just simply sign that return envelope. Please.
Jesse, your hand is up.
Yeah, I had a question, Jim, on the signature part. So let's say I'm assisting someone inside the jail with registering or voting, and I'm going to take the ballot myself and turn it in for them. So they sign and I sign?
Correct. Yeah, there is an area there that they authorize you to see that. There you go, Diane. There we go again. But yes.
You can tell I've done this a lot.
Yes. In fact, you should sit here and give the presentation next time. But this is really so helpful to have that. But yes, exactly.
Okay. Yes, of course. Thank you, Diana. And as Jim mentioned, we are a great team over here. So thank you everyone for all your questions. If you think of anything else, of course, there will be more time to ask, or please put it in the chat. Let's hand it over to Will. Welcome, Will. Thank you for making the time to meet with all of us who are excited to get out the vote and get folks interested and excited for this primary election. And Will needs no introduction, but he is visiting us from the Silicon Valley Community Foundation just to give us an update on some of the grantees' works that they're doing. And some of you all may have been part of that grant. And if you're not, this is also an exciting opportunity for you to hear what other folks are doing. who are not on this call. Thank you, Will.
Yeah, thank you, Hira. If you could give me a moment to share screen, if you can, so I can bring it up. I think I need your permission.
All good.
I think I'm good now. Cool, thank you. But good morning again. I'm Will Aubin. I'm a community action project manager, and I work directly with Jack Mahoney, who kind of leads this work with the San Mateo County Office of Elections. He can't be here. He's actually at another Thrive meeting, I think. I believe he might be in person with you all. So I'm kind of passing on the information for him. But if you have any questions or anything, feel free to stop me. And if I can't get you an answer, I can definitely circle back with you afterwards. But this is really to talk about the grants that we've given out around San Mateo County, the 2024 primary voter engagement. So again, this is through the March 5th primary. And I'm going to just overview some of the funding, kind of where it's gone, the organizations. Also talk a little bit about some demographics, which is probably a review for a lot of you who are very involved with San Mateo County. And then just some current data around engagement that we've gotten from the organizations that have received funding. So just to start, this is the 6th election that we've been partnering with the county around. It started in March 2020 with the primary. And the funding comes from 3 areas. So obviously we get a lot of support from the county. And as you can see, Sarah, Travis, Jim, they all do great work around making sure that they're getting information out to our grantees and to you all. And in addition to that funding and support, we also get funding from the Haas Junior Fund. And then ourselves, we also give funding for this grant opportunity. And it's really to support get out the vote, voter registration, voter information distribution, to inform and inspire San Mateo County registered voters or potentially registered voters to vote in the primary. And then I'll go on to the next one. And this is really a breakdown. There were 16 organizations that received funding this round, which was in December. So they received funding that will go through March 5th. And this is broken down kind of location where they primarily serve, although necessarily, not to say that one organization that might be based in kind of North County doesn't necessarily, maybe work in Central County, things like that. But this is a breakdown of some county-wide organizations. We had 9 of them. So I'm just going to kind of pause there so you can digest a little bit of their missions and kind of their work. And stop me if you have any questions. And I know some of them are on this call. So if I didn't necessarily get the geographical focus right, we can always correct that. And then the next, these are the additional county-wide. So these are 4 of them. So that's 9 of the 16. And Thrive is also one of those, as you can see at the bottom. And then from there, after countywide, we've broken it down to coast-side, South County, and North County. So we have Puente, who is also on this call, and it does amazing work on the coast side. And then we have 2 kind of predominantly South County serving organizations. But I know League of Women Voters does work kind of all across the county. And then we have some North County organizations as well. So this is kind of Daly City, South San Francisco area. And if you ever want a list of these organizations, it's available on our website, and I also can send it out to you if you're interested, if that was too quick of kind of going through them. So those are the 16 organizations. And just to kind of finalize an overview, so we had 16 organizations that were funded. They range in budget. So we have some organizations who have budgets annually under $250,000, and we have some organizations, like you saw, Second Harvest, that has budgets over $10 million. And so kind of a wide range of nonprofit sizes. The most common organization that we did fund through this round was organizations that have a budget in that range between $1 to $249,000. So it was 5 organizations of the 16. And I'm just going to go through some population characteristics and things of San Mateo County. This was based, at least this slide was based off of the 2022 census data. And again, the county is much more of an expert, and I know that they have better data than we possibly pulled from the website and You can also reach out to data at, which I think they put in the chat above, which we can probably re-put in the chat. But this is some population characteristics. 2.78% are veterans. 4.8% are people who have a disability who are under 65. 18% are 65 or older. 35% are born outside of the United States. 60% are homeowners. That means, conversely, 40% are renters or unhoused. 44.8% are speak a language other than English at home. And then 7.2% are people in poverty. And the general population is 729,000. And then this is kind of further by race and also Hispanic origin, as it's normally asked in the census data. So as you can see the breakdown there, and this is really to highlight the importance of percentages to make sure that everybody's getting a chance to show up. And as you can see, some of those organizations particularly target or work with populations from some of these demographics or Hispanic origin. And it's really to just kind of bring that up. And I know that you're probably very used to this data and have seen it, especially at the elections officials, but just wanted to make sure it's kind of brought up here. And then this is based off of 2018 voter registration data. So it's kind of old at this point. And I know the county has much more updated data that you can reach out to get for them. But this is of the eligible percentage that was able to be registered to vote. 82% are registered. 70% of Latino or Latina identifying people are registered voters. So of the percentage that could be registered voters, 70% are. And of Asian American voters, of the percent that could be eligible, 52% are registered. Unfortunately, the data that we got only broke it down into those two categories and then also white. So it didn't really dig into those percentages, African American, Native American, those percentages. I'm sure that the county, I would assume, has data on that, that you can definitely reach out to and get. But this was 2018 data. And then finally, this is kind of highlights the engagement that we've seen from the 16 organizations over the course of the time periods up there. So this is really the beginning of January and then the end of January. And it's kind of split up into high touch, so face-to-face, door knocking, events, tabling, and then maybe those lower touches. So those emails, newsletter, online publications. That is definitely still engaging voters, but might not necessarily be as high touch as actually talking to somebody face to face. And this is kind of the breakdown over the 2 weeks. I will note the second breakdown, we don't have everyone that's fully reported, so we still have 5 organizations that will kind of send us their numbers over the past 2 weeks. Yeah, and again, that's a note. In 2022, there were estimated 433,000 voters who were registered. So that's 41,000 were potentially had a touch point with one of these organizations at the beginning of January. So I'm going to stop there. That's all that I had. I don't know if there's any questions that come up. I'll stop sharing my screen so we can kind of talk, and I can bring up other things if you need me to.
A lot to digest there. Thank you so much, Will. And I see a hand raised from Jesse.
Yeah, I was noticing that the tabling had the highest engagement, and I was wondering if you have any information regarding the strategy that made that number get so high, like location, or was it at well, I saw events up there, so I'm assuming people tabled at events as well. But I was just wondering, are you familiar with what strategies are used with regards to tabling? Because that seems like the best way to do it as far as the numbers show.
Yeah, so what we kind of separated is an event that is hosted by that organization. That's what we called an event. And it's specifically around voter engagement, or it could be, you know, just a broader event and they talk about voter engagement. Tabling is showing up to somebody else's event, basically. That's what we kind of defined the two. I'd have to go back and look, but I think the organizations, there was 2 of them, they were tabling at local high schools. So that was kind of their entry point to have a lot of touch points with a lot of people all at once. Yeah, but it's not to say that, you know, if you're talking to 50 people super in-depth, face-to-face, you know, that's still great voter engagement as opposed to 500 people that you might be handing a flyer out or kind of being able to talk with them for 30 seconds and there's another person there.
Yes. And
yeah.
Second question I had, sorry, was how can one access that data? Is that specific to just San Mateo County, or like is that available in other counties too? Is there like a certain way to get that type of information?
For the final chart that we had with kind of the breakdown of engagements?
Yes.
That's just specific for this fund for San Mateo County. So it's information that we get that you actually send us once every 2 weeks.
Okay. Well, no,
the
first slide you had showed like registered voters versus the total population. That one right there.
Oh, got it.
The census. Yeah.
So that the census data is available online. I can drop the link to that 2018 data, but the county, if you go through, which I'm sure Sarah can drop in, the data at email, you can reach out to them and they can give you more updated information than what I have. Yeah.
Thank you, Will. Thank you, Jesse, for your questions.
Thank you. Thank you.
Before we move on to Pam, Will, I will send some materials and follow-up. Feel free to send me as much information as you like to include in the follow-up for these folks to receive some of the information that you shared. Thank you for
Yeah, of course.
Okay, Pam.
Yes, I know I have seen, I've misplaced the information, but I think it's important to elevate the areas that have very low voter turnout. And I know there was funding given for that, but I think some of our communities are just not aware that we're well below 50%. Thank you.
Yes, that's a very good point. And a lot of the funding for this was the county gives us a list of precincts that had the lowest 20% of turnout. And so the funding actually is generally targeted to organizations who are in those areas located to the lowest 20% of turnout for precincts. So that's a good point. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Oh, Marianne, go ahead.
Yes, while we're on the subject, I wanted to know if Daly City is in one of the lower populations that turn out, and specifically the area of the Bayshore District. Is there a way to find that information out?
I have the precincts for Daly City, which were the lowest. I'll have to look and see if I have that percentage for Bayshore in particular. I'll get right back to you on chat.
Yes, and yes, so I noticed too on the slides that Will just presented that there are a couple of I don't want to say agencies, but organizations that have received funding, and would they have that type of information as well?
They should. I can't say
when we meet, this is Jim. When we do meet, we provide a lot of the statistical information that we have, because as Will mentioned, that those are our targeted populations. So yes, and many agencies are not only informed of that, but requested to target those specific groups.
Yes, are they reporting though? Are they reporting their findings and results? What type of data are they providing? Because these areas are very low impacted, and we want to raise that.
Well, we do have reports that are required of all the agencies participating in our funding program. And the specific data that you're requesting, I don't know. I can't recall. Maybe Travis, you can jump in if you want, or will. But definitely the number of contacts, the efforts that are put forth in those communities are well documented.
So I just wanted to see if we can compare how much better that the, you know, the voting, the show in voting is rising.
Yeah. Thank you, Marion, for your point. And hopefully to add just a little bit is we do get from organizations, you know, what the events, the work that they're doing around voter engagement every 2 weeks. So maybe it would help when we're done with this in March to try to separate that back out to the lowest 20% precincts to try to see exactly where that work was happening.
That would be great to see the
Yeah.
progress. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question.
And I would like to add, because we're very proud here in San Mateo County to have really successfully implemented the Voters' Choice Act countywide since 2018. And Dr. Mindy Romero did conduct a study here in San Mateo County on that question in terms of the effect of the Voters' Choice Act in all of our groups, particularly the underrepresented groups. And San Mateo County literally was off the charts in terms of the increase in voter participation as a result of the Voters' Choice Act and your efforts. The Voter Education Outreach Committee and all the community-based organizations that work with us have a direct impact on that voter turnout and engagement. So it's really, can't pin it down on one absolute issue, you know, as to what is or what is not prohibiting folks to come out. Usually it's voter information, an informed voter. That's why it's important to reach out. All of the studies that particularly Dr. Romero and that are out there in elections show that direct contact is the most effective method of voter engagement to remind people. That's why we send out postcards in election. Remember to vote. And another one's coming in another week or so, just so people keep it in the forefront of their mind. So it's these programs, it's these efforts, it's questions such as yours that will engage voters ultimately. And the other is, you know, just what drives voter turnout are the candidates, the measures, the elections. You know, unfortunately, an election that is as important as this, you know, we may not see across the board in terms of total turnout, 40%, you know, probably be somewhere in that area. If you look at historical population for a presidential primary, 38, 39. This is an important election, and we're only getting, of those 434,000 registered voters, you know, a turnout of 38 to 40%. There's a gap there, and that gap is direct contact with voters to remind them, to encourage them to be engaged, be informed, get out and vote.
No, I agree. I am a outreach specialist, so these are the kinds of questions I ask and would really love to hear some answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Marianne. Go ahead, Diane.
Just one last, I just want to say one last thing. I mean, there's definitely parts of the county that are underrepresented in terms of voter turnout. It's been great to see that there are more organizations, especially in the North County, that are participating in getting the voter outreach grants, because we had a very hard time when we first started the VEOAC trying to get any voter outreach in North County as well as the coast. So hopefully, you know, those areas of the county still have the longest way to go, but there has been some progress, but we still need to keep focusing on those communities, both North County, South County, East, and on coast side.
Amazing. Well, thank you. And thank you, Marianne, for the very important question. Maybe in the future, we can invite our guests to come back and just tell us a little bit more about what we learned after this election. That our next VEOAC will be on April 10th. So that'll give us some time to get some data together, figure out after everything else is posted 30 days after Election Day. Great. And let's hand it over to Jesse.
Yeah, I have a question for Jim on the voter, like when we're doing registrations, earlier you had mentioned like there's 6 party preferences or 6 parties in the state of California that you can choose from. When I was doing research, I learned that there are some parties that attempt to register as parties but don't make the count. You know, when they actually, you know, do the count at the Secretary of State's office, they don't have enough registered voters claiming that party preference to qualify. And so I was wondering, like, you know, where is the boundary at when you're doing engaging, we get to that part about party preferences, and you can tell them about the 6 I know to choose from. Is it permissible to mention parties that are attempting to qualify when you're doing that outreach without crossing the line as like a 501c3, you know, where you're not supposed to, like, you know, say, well, we prefer this one over that one, you know, so we can't tell them to be Democrats, but, you know, there may be some other parties that are trying to get qualification at the Secretary of State's office. Are we allowed to also mention potential parties?
First of all, from the elections perspective, we have blinders with respect to parties and political affiliations. We're nonpartisan. Our job here is to register voters, make sure that people get out and vote, and to conduct fair, open, and honest elections. So in terms of directing a person to a particular party or not, we don't get involved in that. We prefer to actually stay away from that. With respect to questions at the Secretary of State level, which ones are being applied for, which ones are, that's a question that should be directed to the state. But I know of no prohibition, okay, that allows that, you know, that would say, no, you can't speak about this particular group that's, you know, possibly going to be, a registered political party. You can say that, but there are those that are officially registered with the Secretary of State. Those are the ground rules that, you know, exist in terms of parties that are available. But I think that it's important, really, to have everything out on the table, you know, in discussions. And again, as elections professionals, of which and officials like you folks are that are participating in this program, you know, our role, our objective is to provide as much information as possible, and without any preference, without any tilt. And so, if it's out there and it's informative, by all means, I would recommend that you speak about it.
One additional thing I want to add to that is really in California, the only time that it really has an impact as to which political party you're registered in is during the presidential primary, because in California, most everything is the top 2 qualifiers. So regardless of party, you're going to see everybody on the ballot except for the president in the primary. I think I've got that right, because so that's the only time it really becomes critical as to what political party you're registered with. Otherwise, in California, it doesn't have much of an impact on what you see on your ballot.
I hope that clears up your question, Jesse. And if you have questions about what it's like to do outreach as a 501c3, of course, we are nonpartisan, and Diane and I can help you navigate some of those questions. But like Jim said, it's important to have all the information out on the table so voters can make their own choices. Thank you for your question. All right, let's move on. Last question for Betsy.
Yes, I was wondering if Dr. Romero is continuing her study on voter turnout, or is that done?
Dr. Romero is very engaged throughout the state of California and nationally, and she's not doing any particular work for us right now, Travis, unless I'm missing a contract out there. But I don't believe that she's been engaged for providing any statistical information in these elections. But we are generally included in her reports, because she's always contacting our office as to, you know, getting information for the reports that she just does generate for her organization. So she's involved, but she's not in a contract right now with us.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Will, for your presentation. We will include the materials in the follow-up. A lot of things were said in this conversation, and it's important. Just know this is recorded and we will have it on YouTube for you to share with your colleagues and other folks who might be interested in the same information. All right. With that, let's move on to the next section. And in terms of voter engagement conversation, what to expect for this section. We ask you all if you have any announcements about upcoming events, if you have any other questions for the elections office before the call. But really this is your section for you all to make it known. What are you working on? What do you need help with? Do you need some folks to partner with? And what kind of materials can we support you with? And to kick us off, we will go with Jesse.
Hello again, everyone. All right, so I got exciting news. Some of you already know that we've been trying to get into the San Mateo County Jail to do a registration drive for the upcoming March 5th, and then also, of course, in November. So we recently had meetings with, we had a meeting with the undersheriff, can't pronounce his name yet, and Mr. Fogarty, William Fogarty, who is actually very insightful about the VEOAC. He knew about the VEOAC. He mentioned the VEOAC. We didn't mention it. He mentioned it. I can't remember the other guy because he never said anything. But we got approval, at least from Fogarty said he'll help us with the jail that he's currently at and the other facility in getting inside to do our voter engagement outreach inside. And so what he wants us to do, our steps are to send him the materials that we're going to bring in. And then he will release to us clearance forms for us to return back ASAP, because our timeline is so pressing at this moment. We have to, if we're going to do registration drive, then we have to have them in at least 15 days before March 5th, which means that all this needs to take place, the clearance and everything, for next week. So what we're requesting is from our VEOAC, to participate and as volunteers to go inside the jail with us next week to do the voter registration and also the ballot. And we didn't get like what the limit was as far as how many persons can go inside. So what I'm doing is I'm saying 10 to 20, because the way that he described how big the jail was and how the way it's spaced in there, there's no way, 4 or 5 people can cover it. I don't know if they're going to allow that many inside at one time, but we will be going in on different days. So it won't just be one day. So if we can, possibly get a turnout of 20 volunteers, and we can, figure out, how we're going to coordinate that together, that would be great. But yeah, so that's what's happening now. And if you're not going to personally participate as a volunteer in the voter outreach in the jail, but you have members, a part of your organization or your team that probably will be game for this, please, by all means, sign them up. I don't know how we're supposed to collect the information. Maybe, Yahara can help with that, or, emails in the chat. And I'll do my best to get them all. But that's the ask.
Amazing. Thank you, Jesse. I see we have a hand raised, but before that, Jesse, why don't you put your email in the chat, and I
Sure.
will include this information in the follow-up for folks who are on this call, maybe had to drop off, or other folks that are email outreach reaches. Put your email in the chat, and if folks are interested, shoot Jesse an email. And let him know that you are interested in joining him and joining forces. I see the leagues are on here. We have other groups on here. And as Jesse mentioned, they need all the help that they can get. So please think of helping us get the word out about this opportunity. Marianne, do you have your hand raised as in your game for this and you're excited?
Thanks for putting it out there, but there's a possibility. But my question is, Was there an approval for ballot boxes to be placed inside the jail? I was saying gym, but yeah, that was my question.
I don't believe we have a ballot box, but we have a ballot retrieval procedure. Travis, you're on board here, and Sarah, maybe you can amplify a little bit more than that, but I don't believe we have an official ballot box.
Okay.
But can anybody amplify here on that one? Because I know there was discussions about, we had requested, suggested that, and I think logistically it makes it a little bit more difficult for ballot retrieval, but we do have definite contact points that we regularly touch base with to retrieve ballots that are there. And I don't know if Sarah or
Sure.
Hillary or anybody else can amplify on that.
Yeah, we've been working with the jail on getting them ballots, getting them the voter pamphlets, and getting the ballots back for years. So it's not anything unusual. The inmates have been doing mailing their ballots back years because it's a prepaid postage envelope. They just, they have outgoing mail and it goes out to us. In the past, they did collect them at the jail many years ago and deliver them to us. But it seemed like an unnecessary step because other voters vote by mail, and we haven't had any issues.
And I just want to just highlight how important of an event this is, the fact that we are able to get into the jails. I know that the group I'm associated with, San Francisco Peninsula People Power, we've been trying since 2018 to set up different methods and different ways of getting into the jail to register voters. So this is just fantastic. So, kudos to Jesse and all the folks on his team for finally breaking through on this.
I agree. Thank you, Jesse.
And I just wanted to respond to the question in the chat since other people may have the same question. The timeline is, we're presuming is going to be next week, right? So we're trying to get in there next week as soon as possible. And if let's say we don't get cleared to go inside by the officials before the 15-day deadline, that means we'll miss the time to register people, but we won't miss the time for people to actually do voting. So we still will go inside, even if we can't get in when we want to, which would be next week, to do the registration and ballots. But we still will go inside either next week or the following. That's what we're expecting or anticipating.
Very helpful for timeline. Any other questions for Jesse? And Jesse, I see, just to let you know, I see emails here. I see the North League is interested, and Margie put her email in there. So I see some folks are interested in getting involved with this, and Thrive will be sure to push this out in the follow-up. Thank you, Jesse, for presenting this. This is very exciting. We've been talking about this opportunity since a couple months ago when we were all in person. So it's very exciting that your group was able to get through. And I see one hand raised from Donna. Go ahead, Donna.
Thank you. I wanted to know, Jesse, that bill that you were talking about at the last meeting, can you give me the number? It had to do with getting inside the jails, I believe.
It's AB 544, Assembly Member Bryan, Bryan. It's AB 544. And that bill is started out to make it mandatory for the EAP to go inside the county jails and do voting centers and drop boxes. And the bill got gutted. It didn't get the support, I guess, that it wanted. So now they're talking about doing it as a pilot program in 2026, starting with 3 counties. Which I don't like. I don't even know if that's constitutional to give favorable voting privileges to some and not others, but that's where it stands right now. So it's AB 554, Assemblymember Bryan.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Donna. I see, Lucy, this is another question for Jesse or an opportunity to speak about the events that you're hoping to to tell folks about?
Sorry, it was actually it's an event, but I was wanting to pick Sarah's brain since she's our elections guru about it. I wanted to see if something was already created rather than reinventing the wheel. I started doing the radio program, the Tongan radio program that's on Tuesday nights, and I was wondering by any chance if there was a script that you guys had already established, or even an old one, so that I can know what to like how it should be formulated, so that way it's because it won't be just San Mateo County, it would be throughout the Bay Area. All Tongans listen to it, so might as well just get all of them at the same time.
How long are you talking? I mean, we have 15-second and 30-second spots, but I don't think that's what you mean.
No, I mean, I have an hour-long show, so I mean, it's, but it just so I know what to say, because then I was also going to put together a commercial, a little, little, maybe 15 or 30 seconds that the radio people can make. So
will it be in a different
Tongan.
language?
It'll be in Tongan.
Okay, great. I can send you our English scripts that are 15 and 30 seconds long.
Perfect.
For, translate. And there was someone else you worked with a few years back. The name of another woman who did this program?
Lefa?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yes, and I had sent her tons of information.
Yes, yeah. Like, wait, why does that name so? Yes, I'm the reviewer and she's the translator.
Right.
So.
But I mean, a couple of years ago when she asked the same question about like, what should I talk about?
So she's making me reinvent the wheel.
Yeah. So would you send me your email or
yes.
put it on the chat?
Sounds good. Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks.
Thank you, Lucy. And thank you, Sarah. I love that. Elections guru. I hope that doesn't bother you, Sarah, but I really, really think that's
Jim, can I put that on my card?
Yeah, I think so. And then get some hair and pants.
Just kidding.
You can petition for that, yes.
Amazing. I know you all are doing some amazing work, and this is a time to share some of the work and a call for action for folks. In the meantime, while you think of if you would like to share with the group, I would just want to say I want to give you all a tour of, as Thrive Alliance, as some of you have heard in the past, or those that attended the voter outreach training, we have put together a public folder where folks can also input their information about upcoming events, and we have some election information, we have brochures, and we have 12 organizations that we've printed brochures and handed out stipends for some of this work that they're doing. And just to give you a tour of the folder, we have some of the materials that Sarah has covered in the past. We have our voter stickers in Spanish and English. Here, Futuro Votante, and I voted, did you, future voter. These future voter stickers are taken off with the little kids. Just gets them excited about the future. We have our toolkit brochure, which looks like this, and some of you have been able to get your logos branded on our toolkit. For anyone that was participating or would like to get their logos on this toolkit and they can print it out, we will insert your toolkit materials here. As you can see, there's a variety of organizations that have participated in this already. So this is a tour of the folder. If you have any upcoming events that you'd like people to know, input it in here. Any other flyers, feel free to, this is our folder, and feel free to add any materials that you may have.
Hira.
Yes, Marianne?
I do need more of the English future voters and also Chinese. And I'm on the board for the Bayshore Elementary School District. So I can have, I do have connections with our PTO that normally has meetings or general meetings, but just also to have, in our office, I would like to get, I don't want a ton, but there are 400 some odd students very small district, so not a big request, but if I could pick up more English and Chinese.
Okay. Of course. Let's talk about that offline. And Marianne, you know where to come find me for some of okay, and
Okay.
that is what Thrive is doing at the moment. I will of course add that in the follow-up material, but please, please, please contact me. Don't hesitate to contact me. If you want some of this material, if you want your logos on there, let me know. Let's put your logos on there, get them printed, and let's make it really easy for you to get involved. Okay. That is it from Thrive. And Donna, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I put my name, email address in the chat. The National Council of Negro Women, we will be having a voter event on February 22nd. I know that seems like, I mean, it's after the voting time, but still, it's never too late to get information out there anyway. So you can, if you're interested, I'll give you the information. Second thing is April 17th and 18th, the Social Justice Committee for the National Council of Negro Women will be meeting in March. It'll be Northern California and Southern California going to the Capitol to meet with our legislators to talk about issues around different bills and things like that. I can give more information on that if you contact me. Thank you so much.
Can you drop an email in the chat? I have a question on that. So is that an annual event, or is this something that y'all are just doing right now?
This will be our first event for Northern California, Southern California to do a joint meet like this. But I did put my information in the chat.
Okay, I'll reach out to you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Amazing. Thank you both. Okay, so let's end this section and hand it over to Diane for the legislative updates. Just a quick update on Prop 1, and we will go ahead and adjourn this meeting.
Okay, thank you, Hyra. Yeah, so we heard that there was a lot of questions regarding Proposition 1, which is the only proposition on the primary ballot. And I know there's folks here from Legal Women Voters, and they can chime in about it as well, because the league did take the League of California did take a position on this. So basically, Proposition 1 is being promoted as monies to be raised to house folks with mental health issues. So essentially, there's two parts to this proposition. One is the issuance of $6.4 billion in bonds to build facilities for the treatment of folks with mental illness and substance use disorders. And then the second part, and the one that is probably the most controversial, is that it would also shift approximately $140 million of monies that counties currently receive through the Mental Health Services Act, which is sometimes referred to as the Millionaires Tax Act. That money, which they're currently using for community-based mental health services, is going to basically be turned over to the state for its mental health services. So that basically means around 1/3 of all county mental health Services Act funding gets diverted. So what that means is for existing mental health treatments that the counties are providing, they may have to find other sources of money to continue those services. So because of that, and also because a lot of this was pushed through very quickly in the legislature, the California League of Women Voters has come out against Proposition 1, as has the Disability Rights California. There are a couple of, there's like a press release that the league has put out that, Yahira, maybe you put that in the folder. You can also show it here on the screen that explains why they've taken a position against it. They've also put out, as they normally do, a pros and cons, where they don't specifically state their position. So there's two different pieces of paper that you can look at. So if questions come up about this measure, personally, I didn't know very much about it, but from reading it, it really has a big effect on the local counties and how they spend their money that they've currently have allocated for mental health services. So it doesn't really increase the funding to the counties. It's just basically reallocating some of the funding that the counties are already getting from the millionaires tax. So that's just a really, really quick overview. I don't know if people have specific questions, or you know, Betsy or Margie have anything to add to that, because I know all of the local chapters have obviously supported the same position about voting no on Proposition 1.
Yeah, this is Margie from the North League. I put the link to the flyer of why the league took their position, and basically, Diane, you outlined it pretty well. The league believes it is flawed and doesn't like the earmarking mechanism in there. They think the legislature should manage budgets and not through earmarks. I'm trying to find the link to the pro and con, which is neutral, so I can put it in the chat. So I'll shut up and go do that so everybody can get that link.
Thank you, Margie. Thank you, Diane. We've received a lot of questions about Prop 1. I know we usually talk about election legislation, but this is just some information for you all to know. Twyla?
Oh, yes. So my last paid position, I worked with the county, and it was in the Office of Diversity and Equity, part of Behavioral Health and Recovery Services. So my role was Suicide Prevention Program Coordinator. And my primary responsibility was to deliver mental health first aid and Be Sensitive, Be Brave trainings to the community. So what will happen if this proposition gets passed? Funding for these type of trainings will have to be found elsewhere and not through MHSA. So I did want to communicate that because we have found that mental health first aid, Be Sensitive, Be Brave on mental health wellness, suicide prevention really makes an impact to the community. So I'll stop there. And if anyone has questions in regards to that specifically, yeah, I'm available.
And feel free to put your email in the chat. Thank you. Last question, Joanne, before we close it off.
I think to kind of help me understand, I feel like it's confusing when we're saying that the money goes from the county to the state without giving like a little bit more specifics, because we've been trying to share the information that we can find online as well with this proposition. And I feel like that part, I want to be able to explain it more clearly. And so far, I feel like I don't understand it enough to be able to distribute the information.
So again, we'll post a link to a couple of documents, but essentially right now the counties get, again, approximately 140 million, or actually more than 140 million. So like $2 billion is raised from this Mental Health Services Act that was passed in 2004, and that goes down to the counties. The counties can then determine how to use the money that they are allocated as to how to use them for what mental health services are necessary in their particular county. So this gives the counties flexibility to do what works best for their communities. So what Proposition 1 does is it takes back some of that money. So take back $140 million, which had been allocated from the state to the county, back to the state to be used for building this housing. So approximately 1/3 of the monies that the counties currently receive from this Mental Health Services Act essentially gets pulled back to the state. Does that help clarify kind of how the money is going back?
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Is it a quick question, Twyla?
So just a comment, I will send you, Yahar, there's a presentation that was done by the Mental Health Service Act Steering Committee on what will happen. And they have a breakdown of currently where the money is spent and what will happen if Prop 1 passes. So I'll email that to you, and then you can email it to the group.
Yes, very helpful. And then Margie as well, if you're hosting any kind of events on this, that would be helpful as well, so people can ask more questions. Julie.
Real quick, just skimming what the links you pasted in the chat. Thank you so much. It feels like this is a national issue. We're trying to spend state money to help veterans, where we already have a veteran support structure, and the VA should be funding more of more of this outreach. So I feel like there's other ways to get to the end that Gavin Newsom wants without pulling it back from the counties.
Thank you, Julie. Okay. I want to say thank you all for your time. Thank you to all the presenters, and thank you for all your excitement for this primary election. We will close it out so you have a couple minutes before your next meeting. We really appreciate all the work. And let me know if there's any follow-up materials that you want me to include on your behalf. I'm happy to do that. Put them in the chat or email me in the next week or so. And we'll see you all April 10th at the CZI location in person. See you all.
Don't forget to vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.